Hi everyone, it's Christine here from Christine's Stampin' Spot. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm excited to share with you today this super cute, quick, really pink card. So this is the card that we're going to be making today. It says, I love you kind of a lot for the sentiment. I've got some rose colored metallic thread behind the sentiment. I've got some white baker's twine wrapped behind the main flamingo image. I've added some rhinestones, but the main heart of this card is this beautiful flamingo that you get. You layer 4 different stamps together in the set to create this beautiful image. I'm going to bring this up to the camera really quick. I don't think I'm going to be lucky enough to have the camera pick this up. I have done some embossing on that sentiment, which makes it kind of a really nice and shiny look. You will be able to see what I'm talking about in the pictures on my blog, and I will have a link to my blog in the description box of this video. I've also added my clear Wink of Stella glitter pen to the flamingo to add some sparkle, but again, that's really hard to show in the video, so I will again have that in my pictures as well on my blog. I will also have on my blog a link to all of the products that I used to create today's card, as well as all of the measurements for the various pieces of cardstock that we have cut here for this card. I will be using the fabulous flamingo stamp set from Stampin' Up, which again has these fun layers to create that gorgeous flamingo, and it also has some great sentiments. I'll be using Tuxedo Black Memento ink, Lovely Lipstick, which is a brand new in color, Balmy Blue, which is a brand new color in our Subtles collection, and Flirty Flamingo, which was an old in color, but it has been brought back and is now a permanent color in our Brights collection. So let's go ahead and set all of these aside here and go ahead and get started with this stamping. I am going to bring over my Stampin' Pierce mat. Or paper piercer mat, I forget what it's called actually. I think it's called paper piercing mat, something like that. I will link to this on my blog with all the other ingredients, if you will, to make this card. But this is great. It's only $5 and it's a really great investment because it really is the perfect piece of equipment to place underneath your stamping surface. It gives a lot of support to your photopolymer stamps, and I get clear images every time. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring over a rectangular piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to start by stamping this image here. So we're going to do this one first in our darkest pink color, which is our Lovely Lipstick. Stampin' Up! Has redone their ink pads, so as you can see here, you just kind of pull it open there and then push it forward. Now, this is like I said, an in color, so it's going to be available through this catalog and the next catalog as well. So that is great news because I love this particular color. It's so bright and fun. Okay, so sometimes with these bigger images, it's a little bit easier to bring the ink pad to the image. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and bring my ink pad to my flamingo image, and then I'm just going to stamp it in the middle of this rectangular piece of Whisper White cardstock. Apply even pressure all the way down. This is a bigger block because the image is bigger, so you want to make sure you get your pressure all the way around to the block here. And then you want to lift it straight up. And there we go. So that's what that first image will look like. Now the next thing that I'm going to stamp is his legs. And the only reason I'm going to stamp that next, normally I'd go ahead and do the body up here, but I have a hard time for some reason lining up these legs. It's not the stamp's fault, I promise you, it's mine. And if I was using my Stamparatus, I wouldn't be having trouble at all. I just received my Stamparatus in the mail yesterday, so I will be using that in future videos. It is an amazing tool. I've been playing with it today and I absolutely love it. It is such a good attribute to have in your craft room. But for today's purposes, I want to show you that you can use this particular stamp set if you want to without the Stamparatus or any other stamping tool. You just have to be kind of careful in layering this up, particularly the legs. Everything else, it really kind of doesn't matter. But these legs are a little bit tricky, so I'm going to try not to get my head in, but you just want to peer right through the block and stamp the black outline of the legs in between the thicker pink line that we've just stamped down. So I think I've got it right about there. I'm going to go ahead and stamp it down and we'll see how we did. Lift it straight up. Ah, great. I got a little bit of black on my block though and caused that to happen right there. But if you can see that right there, that was just because I was clumsy when I was inking it up and I got a little ink on my block. But we're going to keep going because I can put my sentiment there, and no one will ever know that that was there. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to use this one next, and this is going to be the body, or the lighter pink color of the body of the flamingo. And I'm going to use Flirty Flamingo, which I thought was aptly named for this particular image. All right, so let's go ahead and get this all inked up. Okay, that is looking good. I always like to just double check my images and kind of turn them over sometimes and make sure I have them stamped well. Now this is really easy to line up, but again, the camera's right above my head, so I'm trying not to get my head in the camera. So if I'm not perfect, again, it's me, not the stamp, because when I was doing this on my own, I lined it up perfectly every time. The only thing I had trouble with were those darn legs, but I did pretty good this time. All right, so now we're on our last step of this flamingo, and that is the more detailed nose and feather outline and things of that nature. I'm going to do this in black because he's going to have a black nose, and the black just kind of gives it a little bit of detail to the glob of pink that you see here. And this is what will really bring it all together when you stamp this final piece of the puzzle here, because right now it kind of looks like a hot mess, doesn't it? But you'll see what I mean in just a moment, because this is going to be absolutely beautiful. And you've kind of, or at least I do, I feel kind of like an artist a little bit when I use these 3-step stamps, because they are so fun and the image is so beautiful and so planned out well. I don't even know from like just an engineering perspective, or whatever the right word is, how you would create these stamps and have them layer so beautifully. It's just great. Okay, so there's our beautiful flamingo. That smudge there is driving me nuts, but I'm going to try not to be a perfectionist here and just let it go. Let it go, let it go. Now I'm going to bring over the balmy blue. And this is just for the little bit of water that the little flamingo is going to be standing in. So I am just going to ink this up very quickly in our balmy blue, which again is a brand new color. I love this color. Now we're going to stamp this, and of course we're just going to put it right over his little feet, and we're going to stamp it. That's why we have this scratch paper here, because some of it's going to go off the paper. I just want a little bit showing. There we go. Just like that. That's perfect. And we are done completely with the balmy blue, so we can go ahead and close that up. Okay, now what I want to do is set this aside, and I'm going to bring over this small piece of Whisper White cardstock. Again, I will have all of the measurements on my blog in case you are interested. And we're going to do a little tiny bit of embossing. So let me grab my Versamark ink pad and my sentiment stamp, which says I love you kind of a lot, which I think is really sweet. Now this technique that I'm going to show you is a way that you can emboss with clear embossing powder. I'm using the Stampin' Up! Clear embossing powder, and you can emboss in any color by using this technique. So what you do is you simply ink your stamp up in your Versamark, so get lots of Versamark on that sentiment, and then you close your Versamark up. Notice I haven't stamped anything down yet. Now I'm bringing over my lovely lipstick, which is the color I want for my sentiment. And I'm going to actually run my embossing buddy over this really quickly. Your embossing buddy is a fantastic tool because it will only allow, if you rub it over your surface area of your cardstock, it will only allow the embossing powder to stick where there is Versamark ink. So in other words, the embossing powder in this case will only stick to the sentiment. So I've got Versamark on here on this stamp. Now notice I have not cleaned off my stamp. I haven't stamped anything down. The Versamark is still on this stamp. I'm now going to put it right into, you will not hurt your ink pad doing this. I'm putting it right in that lovely lipstick ink. And now I'm going to stamp down right in the middle of this piece of small rectangular cardstock. I'm going to put apply even pressure to my block and then lift it up. And there we go. So right now it doesn't look like I've done anything special. But what we're going to do, I'm going to close the ink pad super quick, and I'm going to bring over our clear embossing powder. I'm going to pick this up and just hold it at the end here. And now I'm going to spoon the embossing powder onto the sentiment, make sure it's nice and covered. And then I like to just sort of turn it over, give it a very light thump on the back, just to make sure I've gotten the excess off. And now we go ahead and close this up. And now I'm going to bring over my heat tool, and we are just going to emboss this. This will take just a moment to do. the end results are fabulous. I should have brought my little tweezers over because this is kind of hot, but let's see if I can do this without them. Okay. Takes just a little bit of time for that embossing powder to melt. So bear with me for just a minute. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this like this. There we go. Now I won't burn my fingers. Ha! There we go. So now it just looks a little brighter, doesn't it, from the video? But let me show you. I'm going to try to bring it up to the camera, and hopefully the camera will pick this up. Your end result here is really, really cool. You get this kind of, I don't know if it's going to show. It's very shimmery and shiny look to it. So it looks like you embossed this with lovely lipstick embossing powder, which of course I don't have. So it's a really cool way to get more out of your supplies, I think. Hopefully the end result will show up really nicely on the pictures. So I'm going to set this aside now. We are all done with our stamping, so we can take that and set that aside. And now it's just a matter of putting this card together. So the first thing that we're going to do, I have a piece of, I'm going to bring my scratch paper back because when I'm working with black cardstock on my black work surface, it can be a little difficult to see. All right, so I'm going to bring my Flamingo back over, and I'm going to grab my snail. I'm just going to apply some snail to the back of this piece of cardstock that we just did all of our stamping on. Most of our stamping anyway. Everything but the sentiment. And I'm just going to go ahead and center this on this black cardstock here. Though I thought the black really just kind of helped the pink from the Flamingo really pop. Okay, now this piece of beautiful designer series paper is from the Garden Impressions 6x6 designer series paper stack. It is absolutely gorgeous. I've used it in a couple other videos as well, and in one of my card classes, and I just look at this other side. Isn't it gorgeous? This paper is just beautiful. So I thought it would be fun to kind of use that bright pink designer paper with this card. So we're just going to center this onto our black card base like so and stick it down. Okay, and now the sentiment's all nice and cooled off, so we're just going to stick some snail on the back of that, and I have a black rectangle piece of cardstock to back this on as well. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stick our Flamingo down using some Stampin' Dimensionals. Just wanted my Flamingo to have a little bit of a pop. So let's go ahead and stick him down. I need to grab a few more dimensionals. These dimensionals are absolutely fabulous. I love them, and they're very inexpensive, and you get so many in a package. I really don't worry about you know, conserving them because I feel like I get so many every time I order, and it's awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and peel these backings off, which takes kind of sometimes longer than you're stamping. These backings are kind of a pain sometimes. Okay, and now I'm just going to stick this right about here. Okay, now I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of my sentiment. Like so, and then we'll just peel these backings off, and now we're going to wind some rose-colored metallic thread around the back. So it comes on a spool like this, and it's really, really, really pretty. This is a step that you could, of course, omit. I just, as I've done in a lot of my cards lately, I really love this look. It just adds a little bit of texture to the card, a little bit of interest to your design, and it's super easy. The thread is so inexpensive, and so it's a really nice little embellishment that doesn't take much time and certainly doesn't cost much. And I just think it's worth it for me personally, because I really love the look. But you know, not everybody does, and that's totally fine. You could absolutely leave this off. If you were recreating this card, you could leave this stuff off completely if you wanted to. It's just one of those design ideas, you know, that It's great for some people, and some people have a different aesthetic, and that is totally fine. So I'm just using the dimensionals to kind of help me wind this thread around here and stick it down to the back, so that when I turn it over is when you'll see all the pretty threads sticking out. And I'll show you what I mean in just a sec. So I'm just letting the thread kind of dictate how it wants to turn. So this piece wants to go that way, and that's fine. And then this is probably going to be our last piece. Yep. Okay, and there's still plenty of sticky on these dimensionals, by the way. This thread is so thin that it's not going to affect the stickiness of your dimensionals. So now here's where I get to cover that boo-boo that I made. I'm going to put the sentiment up just a little bit higher than my sample card, because I want to cover up that little boo-boo there. So we're going to put it about there. Okay. Now there's a little thread on the flamingo, but I think it's worth it to cover up the little bit of smudge that I made on the cardstock. So see, you don't have to start over every time you make a mistake, which is what I personally am tempted to do. That's why I'm saying this. I'm really saying this to myself. It's okay. These are handmade projects, right? So it's absolutely okay if they look handmade, because that's what they are. Okay, so now the last step is I'm just going to add some Stampin' dimensionals, just a few here and there, just to add a little bit of bling to the card. And then I'll add one more large one down here, and then a small one. And this is really just there's no right or wrong to adding dimensionals. I tend to like to add odd numbers, so I have 5, for example, on this card. Again, it's just one of those design issues, design ideas, design, whatever your personal liking is right. There's no wrong answer. So I decided to change things up a little bit from my original card design. I felt like the baker's twine got a little bit hidden. So I'm just changing my final design up just a little bit, and I'm just going to do a little side ribbon here with the thick Whisper White baker's twine. So I'm just going to put it right here and then make just a little bow like that. We'll see if we like this any better. You could do it either way, or again, you could absolutely leave it off. It's completely up to you. I think that looks kind of cute. I might pull it down just a little bit. Okay. It's a little too loose. Be careful when you're doing these side ribbons, when you have your card that side folds open like this. You just want to make sure that you have the ribbon tight enough. Otherwise, it's just going to be a little too loose, like it just was on my card, and it might look just a little off. So I'm going to try to make my knot a little bit tighter here. So I'm just going to pull it really tight and hold my finger in the middle, and then I'll lift up and make the bows. We'll see if that's better. Oh, that's much better. Okay, and now we can cut this a little bit. Cut the tails. Whoops, there we go. Okay, that's better. I like that much better. Okay. All right, and then the very last step is I just added some Wink of Stella glitter pen, which is what this is right here. It's a great staple to have in your craft room, and it's fantastic, and it really adds a beautiful shimmer and shine to your projects. And quite literally, all I'm doing is scribbling this glitter on over our flamingo. And in the final pictures on my blog, you'll be able to see what a beautiful shimmer and shine this little bit of extra touch adds. I don't think it's going to show up for me on camera, but I guarantee you it's there in real life, and it's very pretty. So the picture should show that. Okay, so that is it, guys. That is our quick and easy triple step Stampin' Flamingo. I do think how do you guys like the ribbon? You guys tell me if you prefer the ribbon on the side, or if you prefer it like I have in the original card. All right, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by and for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, bye-bye.